It is 11 minutes past 11 in the morning, Eastern Time, on Sunday, November 6th, 2022. Changpeng Zhao, the chief executive of Binance, opens Twitter and posts 7 sentences. The exact text reads, "Due to recent revelations that have come to light, we have decided to liquidate any remaining FTT on our books." 3 minutes later, 11,000 kilometers away in Nassau, the Bahamas, Caroline Allison, the chief executive of Alameda Research, replies. She tags Zhao directly. Her tweet reads, "She's Binance. If you're looking to minimize the market impact on your FTT sales, Alameda will happily buy it all from you today at 22. In her office on the Albany Resort, she has $600 million available to defend that price. By the end of the next day, she will have none. 5 days later, on Friday, November 11th, at 6 minutes past 10 in the morning, FTX, until that morning, the third largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world, valued at $32 billion, will file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. $8 billion of customer money will be missing. Sam Bankman-Fried, the man who built it, will be on the cover of Forbes magazine in 700 copies that have already shipped to subscribers and cannot be recalled. Long before there were 47 charges, there were 2 tweets, 3 minutes apart, on a Sunday morning in November. This is the story of the largest cryptocurrency fraud in history. $8 billion of customer money deposited into FTX accounts that depositors believed were theirs was instead funneled through a back door in the exchange's own software into Alameda Research, the affiliated trading firm run by Sam's former girlfriend. The back door had been written in code by the chief technology officer of FTX himself. 3 people at the top knew. 300 employees of FTX did not. Sam Bankman-Fried, until November 2022, had been on the cover of Forbes magazine as the youngest self-made billionaire on the planet. He gave TED Talks. He donated more money to Democratic candidates in 2022 than anyone in America except George Soros. He also, by his own later admission, donated an equivalent amount to Republicans through dark money channels because he believed in hedging. By March of 2024, he had been convicted on all 7 counts at his trial. Judge Lewis Kaplan sentenced him to 25 years in federal prison. He is, as of May 2026, incarcerated at the Federal Correctional Institution Lompoc 1 in California. His appeal is pending before the Second Circuit, but his motion for a new trial was denied in April 2026. This is how it happened, minute by minute, lie by lie, transfer by transfer. Sam Bankman-Fried was born in 1992 in Stanford, California. His father, Joseph Bankman, was a professor of tax law at Stanford Law School. His mother, Barbara Fried, was a professor of legal ethics at the same institution. Both his parents were career academics who knew in considerable detail what wire fraud was. He went to MIT to study physics. There, he encountered the philosophy of effective altruism. The idea, popularized by the Oxford philosophers William MacAskill and Peter Singer, that the most ethical thing a smart person can do is to make as much money as possible and then give it to charity. Sam was 20 years old. He decided he would do this. After MIT, he joined Jane Street, the New York trading firm. He worked there for 3 years. He was quiet, considered awkward, and exceptionally good at quantitative arbitrage. In late 2017, at 25 years old, he left to start his own firm. He did not start it alone. His co-founder was a woman named Tara McAuley, a fellow effective altruist who had run the Center for Effective Altruism in Oxford. They called the firm Alameda Research because, Sam later admitted, Naming it something that sounded like a science institute made it easier to open bank accounts. They set up in Berkeley, California, in a windowless office with about 30 employees in their early 20s, most drawn from the effective altruism community. They worked 16-hour days. They slept on beanbags. In February 2018, Sam invited a young trader named Caroline Allison out for coffee in San Francisco and pitched her on joining the firm. She accepted the following month. She would, much later, write under the Tumblr handle Fake Charity Nerd Girl on a blog she titled World Optimization, about polyamory and effective altruism and the moral structure of sexual competition. The blog was active for years before it was deleted. In 2017 and 2018, Bitcoin was trading at a premium on Japanese cryptocurrency exchanges compared to American ones, sometimes as much as 10% above the US price. This was an arbitrage opportunity. If you could buy Bitcoin in America and sell it in Japan, you made the spread, minus the cost of moving the money. The cost of moving the money was substantial because Japanese banks were extremely careful about accepting foreign wire transfers related to cryptocurrency. Sam's team built a network of Japanese intermediaries, shell companies, and willing local banks. They moved millions of dollars a week through it. Then, in April 2018, a sum of money went missing from one of Alameda's wallets. Sam said it was a routine matter. The trade had been split between multiple counterparties. Some of the money was being held in escrow. All would be reconciled. Half of Alameda's staff did not believe him. Tara McAuley resigned. So did 8 other senior employees. The departing staff told friends in private that they thought Sam was concealing the size of the loss. Caroline Allison did not leave. She believed him. The Bitcoin premium in Japan closed by mid-2018. Alameda needed a new business. Sam decided to build his own cryptocurrency exchange. He did not build it alone. In May 2019, in a small office in Hong Kong, he and a software engineer named Zixiao Wang, who went by Gary, launched FTX. Gary wrote the trading software. To finance the launch, the two of them issued a token called FTT, the FTX token. FTT had no intrinsic value. It paid no dividends. It conferred no ownership of the exchange. It existed for one reason: to be sold to early supporters, and more importantly, to be held on Alameda's balance sheet as a high-value asset. This was the first lie. Alameda's balance sheet, from May 2019 onward, would show billions of dollars of FTT. The FTT had been printed by FTX. FTX had been founded by Sam and Gary. Alameda was now run, day to day, by Caroline Allison. Within 3 months, Binance, the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world, run by Changpeng Zhao, known as CZ, bought a 20% stake in FTX for $80 million. CZ believed in Sam. For 2 years, they were friendly partners. In September 2021, FTX moved its headquarters from Hong Kong to Nassau in the Bahamas. The Bahamian government had passed a friendly cryptocurrency regulation framework. Sam and his core team moved into a penthouse on the Albany Resort, a luxury real estate complex on Cable Beach, partly owned by Tiger Woods and Justin Timberlake. 10 of FTX's most senior people lived in that penthouse. Caroline Allison lived there. Gary Wang lived there. Nishad Singh, the head of engineering, lived there. Sam slept on a mattress in one of the smaller rooms. The penthouse had what later observers would describe as a polyamorous configuration. Sam himself would publicly deny it. Caroline's Tumblr blog, World Optimization, said otherwise. By January 2022, FTX was valued at $32 billion. Sam was on the cover of Forbes. Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen were ambassadors. The Miami Heat Arena was renamed the FTX Arena. Larry David starred in a Super Bowl commercial that aired in February 2022, paid for by FTX at a cost of around $30 million for a minute of broadcast time. The peak of FTT, the token at the center of everything, was $85.02 on September 9, 2021. In the first half of 2022, Sam Bankman-Fried was a unique cultural figure. He gave TED Talks, he attended Davos in cargo shorts, he met with members of Congress to help write the legislation that would regulate cryptocurrency in the United States. Legislation that would have given FTX, his own exchange, enormous advantages over its competitors. He donated approximately $39.8 million to Democratic candidates in 2022, becoming the second largest individual donor to the Democratic Party in America after George Soros. He also donated, in his own later admission, an equivalent amount to Republican candidates through dark money channels, a fact he kept hidden because, he said, the super-liberal press would have punished him for it. He had, in total, given away roughly $100 million in political donations by November 2022. The DOJ would later charge him with using stolen customer money to do it. The most expensive Zoom call in venture capital history was held in early 2021. Sequoia Capital was considering a major investment in FTX. The pitch was on Zoom. Sam Bankman-Fried, during the pitch, simultaneously played League of Legends. The Sequoia partners on the call could see the game on his screen. Rather than read this as disrespect, they read it as evidence of an extraordinary mind operating on so many parallel tracks that even a billion-dollar pitch could not occupy all of it. They invested $213.5 million in FTX. They would later write the entire investment down to zero. The Financial Times, in 2023, would note that Sam's win-loss ratio in League of Legends was, in fact, average to bad. In May 2022, the cryptocurrency Terra and its sister token Luna collapsed in 3 days, wiping out $40 billion of investor money. Sam stepped in publicly as the savior of the crypto industry. He extended a $400 million revolving credit facility to BlockFi, a struggling crypto lender, with an option to acquire the company outright for up to $240 million. FTX's American subsidiary won an auction to acquire Voyager Digital for approximately $1.42 billion in assets. He talked openly to journalists about being the rescuer-in-chief. The press called him the White Knight of crypto. Internally, he encouraged a public image that one journalist described as J.P. Morgan in cargo shorts. The money he was lending was, in significant part, not FTX's money. It was customer money. Customers who had deposited dollars and cryptocurrencies into their FTX accounts, expecting their balances to remain intact, had no idea that their deposits were funding Sam's rescue operations. Inside FTX, only a small group knew. Caroline Allison knew because Alameda Research was where the money was sitting. Gary Wang knew because he himself had built a backdoor in FTX's code that allowed Alameda to draw on funds it did not own. Nishad Singh knew because he was the engineering director who had reviewed the backdoor. Sam knew because Sam had instructed all of them. There were over 300 other employees at FTX. None of them knew. In June 2022, Sam confided to one of his FTX engineers, a young man named Adam Yedidia. The exchange, Sam said, was no longer safe. We were bulletproof last year, but we're not bulletproof anymore. That was an exact quote from Yedidia's later testimony under oath. Sam said it 6 months before the collapse, 5 months before the CoinDesk article, 5 months before the first tweet. On Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022, the financial journalist Allison published an article on CoinDesk, the largest cryptocurrency news outlet in the world. The headline was, "Divisions in Sam Bankman-Fried's crypto empire blur on his trading titan, Alameda's balance sheet." A leaked balance sheet, dated June 30th, 2022, showed that Alameda Research held $14.6 billion in total assets. The asset breakdown contained 3 line items that, when summed, told a story. $3.66 billion in unlocked FTT, $2.16 billion in FTT collateral, $292 million in locked FTT. That was over $6 billion of Alameda's assets, over 40%, sitting in a single illiquid token. The token was FTT. The issuer of FTT was FTX. Sam controlled both. Allison's article was not, on its face, an accusation of fraud. It simply showed, with documents, that Alameda's solvency depended entirely on the price of FTT remaining high. Crypto Twitter understood immediately. By Thursday morning, hedge funds and traders all over the world were asking each other the same question. If FTT drops, does Alameda go under? And if Alameda goes under, what happens to FTX? On Sunday, November 6, 2022, at 3 minutes past 11 in the morning Eastern Time, Changpeng Zhao, the chief executive of Binance, posted on Twitter the message that this film opened with. Due to recent revelations that have come to light, we have decided to liquidate any remaining FTT on our books. Binance held a substantial position in FTT, accumulated from the 2019 deal when CZ had sold his early FTX stake back to Sam. CZ was now announcing he would unwind that position. The market understood within minutes. A sell-off of that magnitude would crash the FTT price. If the price crashed, Alameda, whose balance sheet depended on FTT, would become insolvent. If Alameda became insolvent, FTX, which had been quietly lending customer money to Alameda through Gary Wang's back door, would have no money to pay back its customers. 3 minutes after CZ's post, at the same 11:03 Eastern Time, Caroline Allison tagged him in a reply. Binance, if you're looking to minimize the market impact on your FTT sales, Alameda will happily buy it all from you today at 22. The tweet was meant to project confidence, to send the message that Alameda had so much capital it could absorb whatever Binance sold. To anyone who understood balance sheets, it was the opposite. It was a public admission that Alameda needed to defend the FTT price at $22, and that Caroline would burn through her own reserves to do it. Crypto Twitter screenshot the exchange. Within 12 hours, both tweets had been viewed tens of millions of times. The market knew Caroline did not have the cash to absorb a major liquidation, because if she did, she would have already done it without saying anything in public. The price of FTT began to slide. On Tuesday, November 8, 2022, FTX customers began trying to withdraw their money in unprecedented volume. By the end of the day, the FTT token had lost roughly 80% of its value in 24 hours, erasing approximately $2 billion of market capitalization. FTX did not have the customer reserves to honor the withdrawals. FTX, for years, had been moving customer deposits to Alameda through Gary Wang's back door, and Alameda had been spending the money on real estate, on political donations, on the BlockFi credit line, and the Voyager acquisition, on lending to other crypto firms, on Bahamian property for Sam's parents. As of June 2022, Alameda already owed FTX approximately $8 billion. None of it could be repaid. FTX paused withdrawals. The official explanation was technical maintenance. The real explanation was that there was nothing left to pay out. Sam went on Twitter that evening and assured customers that everything was fine. The exact text was 4 words. FTX is fine. Assets are fine. He posted it. He then deleted it within hours when its falseness became indefensible. By that point internally, he had been describing the situation to colleagues for months in language that contradicted the tweet word for word. On Wednesday, November 9th, CZ, the same CZ who had triggered the run with his Sunday tweet, announced that Binance had signed a non-binding letter of intent to acquire FTX. The crypto world breathed for a few hours. Then, 24 hours later, CZ pulled out, citing what he called due diligence issues that were beyond our control or ability to help. On Friday, November 11th, 2022, FTX US, Alameda Research, and approximately 130 affiliated companies filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Sam Bankman-Fried resigned as chief executive. John J. Ray III, the lawyer who had wound down Enron after its 2001 collapse, was installed as the new CEO. 6 days later, on November 17th, Ray submitted his initial declaration to the bankruptcy court. In paragraph 5, he wrote a sentence that has become the most cited verdict ever rendered on a fraudulent organization. Never in my career have I seen such a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as occurred here. From compromised systems integrity and faulty regulatory oversight abroad, to the concentration of control in the hands of a very small group of inexperienced, unsophisticated, and potentially compromised individuals, this situation is unprecedented. The man who had cleaned up Enron was saying that FTX was worse than Enron. Sam Bankman-Fried did not leave the Bahamas. He spent the days after the bankruptcy filing giving interviews to anyone who would talk to him. On November 16th, he sent a series of private Twitter messages to a Vox reporter named Kelsey Piper, who had been one of the most thoughtful chroniclers of the effective altruism movement and Sam's role in it. In those messages, he said something that, until that moment, had only been suspected. He said, "The ethics stuff is mostly a front. It's this dumb game we woke Westerners play where we say all the right shibboleths and so everyone likes us." Piper published the messages in Vox 3 days later. The most quoted $3 billion champion of effective altruism in the world had admitted in writing that the ethics had been a marketing decision. On November 30th, he appeared by video link at the New York Times Dealbook Summit, interviewed by Andrew Ross Sorkin. The interview lasted just over an hour. Sam admitted to mistakes. He used the phrase, "I fucked up." He denied stealing customer money. His own legal team had asked him not to do the interview. He did it anyway. On December 12, 2022, Bahamian police arrested Sam at the request of the United States Department of Justice. 10 days later, he was extradited to New York. On the FBI airplane out of Nassau, he was photographed in handcuffs. His trial began on October 3, 2023, in front of Judge Lewis Kaplan in the Southern District of New York. The prosecution called Caroline Allison as a cooperating witness. She testified for 3 days. When asked by the prosecutor what Sam had directed her to do, her exact answer, under oath, was 5 words. "He directed me to commit these crimes." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. On November 2, 2023, 1 year and 1 day after the CoinDesk article, Sam Bankman-Fried was convicted on all 7 counts that had gone to the jury. On March 28, 2024, Judge Kaplan sentenced him to 25 years in federal prison and ordered an $11 billion forfeiture. Outro. The FTT token, the digital asset at the center of the largest fraud in cryptocurrency history, is still traded today, in May 2026. It is worth approximately 35 cents. It will not return to $85. The customers of FTX have, for the most part, been made partly whole. The bankruptcy estate, operating under the renamed FTX Recovery Trust, has been distributing payments to creditors since late 2024. But the distribution carries a cruel detail. Customers are being repaid based on the dollar value of their crypto holdings on November 11, 2022, the day of the bankruptcy filing. Bitcoin on that day was $16,000. Bitcoin in May 2026 has been over $50,000. A customer who deposited 1 Bitcoin into FTX in October 2022 will receive approximately $16,000 in 2024 currency, not the Bitcoin, not its current value. The unrealized losses, measured in lost opportunity, run into the tens of billions of dollars. A plan to revive the exchange, briefly marketed as FTX 2.0, was floated in 2023 and quietly abandoned. The FTX brand will not return. Sam Bankman-Fried is incarcerated at the Federal Correctional Institution, Lompoc 1, in California. His appeal is pending before the Second Circuit. His motion for a new trial was denied by Judge Kaplan in April 2026. Legal experts give the appeal little chance. Caroline Allison was sentenced to 2 years in prison in September 2024. She served 14 months at the Federal Correctional Institution in Danbury, Connecticut, and was released early on January 22, 2026, to a re-entry facility in New York City. She has not publicly returned to writing on world optimization. Gary Wang received no prison time. Nishad Singh received no prison time. Joseph Bankman and Barbara Fried, Sam's parents, are still alive, still on faculty at Stanford, and are themselves the subject of a civil suit by the FTX bankruptcy estate, seeking the return of properties and cash they received from their son during the years of the fraud. The worst part of the FTX story is not the $8 billion. It is not the trial. It is not the 25 years. The worst part is that Sam, in November 2022, in a private Twitter message that he did not know would be published, told a reporter that the ethics had been mostly a front. He may have believed that when he typed it. He may believe today, in his cell in California, that the fraud was an accident, that the system was solvent, that Binance started the run, that Caroline lied. He writes blog posts from prison saying as much. Maybe the most complete kind of fraud is the kind the fraudster, by the time he is caught, can no longer distinguish from a mistake. FTX fell because one man controlled both the exchange and the trading firm. The same thing happened in 1995, when a single 28-year-old trader brought down Britain's oldest investment bank.